Scholar lashes out right groups' report against Ethiopia, which lacks neutrality standards. ICRC calls international communities urgently respond to humanitarian crisis in Ethiopia. And Somalia is one step closer to electing a new president. Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour, and I'm Zwoto Desaling with the news. Do stay tuned. A rally denouncing H.R. 6600 and S. 3199 draft bills was held in Washington, D.C., U.S., involving participation of Ethiopians, Eritreans, and friends of the two countries. The two demonstrators called on congressmen and senators of the U.S. to push for cancellation of the draft bills they described as counterproductive tools that would hurt long-standing relationships between Ethiopia and the United States. Ethiopians have so far staged demonstrations in Brussels, Rome, and various cities of the U.S. to protest the two draft bills. The joint report of the two watchdogs on allegedly committed human rights in Walqait is substandard and fallacious in methodology. The political analyst and consultant Alemayo Aradda said the Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch report came out to suppress findings of Gondar University. Goshmeliso reports.
The Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch are non-governmental organizations predominantly financed by members and philanthropists to achieve its very purpose. The international community and watchdogs have been accusing Ethiopian government allegedly violating human rights violation, which is said without considering the reality on the ground.
Who is the Human Rights Watch?
Talking to ETV, Alemayo Aradda said some international organizations are financed by individual agents who have negative interest on Ethiopia.
The Human Rights Watch is being financed by agents, by individuals who have a negative interest on Ethiopia. On the other hand, if you take Amnesty International, it is a non-governmental organization stationed in London. It is financed by individuals, by its members. It's a global movement. The Department for International Development Agency of Britain is granting it. The European Commission is granting fund to it. And the Department of State, State Department of the United States, is also financing it.
He denounced the joint report of the two watchdogs on allegedly committing human rights violation in Walqait is substandard and showed shameful methodology.
The Gondar University report is open to everybody. The forensic evidence is open. You can comment on it. It's neutral. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any interest. It is authentic because it is based on scientific method. But on the other hand, if you take the two joint reports, the joint report by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, the methodology is very, very shameful because it is substandard even when looked at from the previous standard of Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Their methodology is totally a failure. They tell us they have interviewed more than about 400 people or so who are residing in the Sudan, people who have fled from where? From Tigray, Walqait, we don't know. We don't know the profile of the interviewees. It's just a telephone conversation.
Political analyst and consultant Alemayo Aradda pointed out the Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch report came out at a time Gondar University revealed mass graves in Walqait. Therefore, he said the report is intentionally released to suppress the study.
Why did it come now? The international media has already started propagating it. The human rights, the Human Rights and Amnesty International report came out to suppress, to depress the report of the Gondar University study. That it just wants to cover it with some kind of dirty soil. That is the intention.
Alemayo urged the government has to file documents to bring the Samri group to justice who committed massacre in Maikadra and fled to Sudan refugee camp.
Welkite has become a site of mass graves where thousands of people were massacred and buried by the TPLF's tyrannical administration during the past 4 decades. Recently, a prominent American photojournalist paid visit to the area and told Ethiopian news agency that he saw the mass graves last week and was saddened by the content of Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch's report on the alleged crimes in Welkite area. Tigist Sarnisa has the details from Ethiopian news agency.
The well-known photojournalist Jamal Countess noted that the human rights organizations are ignoring the reality in Welkite, and they came out with records to try to downplay or blunt the effect of the report of Gondar University. It is to be recalled that researchers from University of Gondar discovered mass graves of ethnic Amhara massacred by TPLF's tyrannical administration in Welkite Agadi in Jallamd area for the past 40 years.
Looking at the situation with Welkite, standing in a place where there were 9 people buried on top of each other in one grave in one little corner of this town, which is reportedly built on mass graves, and visiting other graves that hold 24 here or 35 there, and looking at a potential, region being a grave site.
But the whole world is being misguided by misinformation of the Western media and by politically motivated reports from human rights organizations, Countess said. He underlined that the recent joint report of Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch is particularly intended to shadow the reality of investigation on mass graves in Welkite area. Countess shared his grief about what he witnessed during his current visit in Welkite, where people who lived in the area have been digging by hand to try to find buried beloved family members.
Even if, you have somebody who's lived in this region, what you're dealing with is family members who know where their family members are buried, who are actually digging by hand. Now that they have access to the region, they're digging by hand to try to find father, brother, uncle, community leader. And these 2 human rights organizations, of course, they're ignoring that. They actually came out with these reports to try to downplay or blunt the effect of the University of Gondar's report. So, but yeah, what the TPLF does is utilize the power of white speak. And so you look at the talking heads, aided or abetted by a member of the TPLF, and that's going to be gospel over the tens of thousands of voices of Welkite in the region who have missing family members and still have missing family members.
According to the journalist, the point person in this intelligence gathering for these human rights organizations report is a member of the terrorist TPLF, which has been still backed by the Western powers. This is because the Westerners do not want to hear the bad news about TPLF that the group has committed massacres and mass graves were found in the area of Welkite and its surroundings.
The Ethiopia branch of the International Committee of the Red Cross called upon the international community to swiftly respond to the humanitarian crisis in northern Ethiopia before it is too late. Talking to ETV, head of operations for the International Committee of the Red Cross, Ethiopia, Nicholas Robert, also took the occasion to recommend the recently declared humanitarian truce, which he said has helped the ICRC get a much better access to affected areas. Our staff reporter, Yerusalim Betzha, has sat down with him and compiled the following story. Take a look.
Morning. How are you? Nice to meet you. I'm Nicholas.
Head of Operations for the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC Ethiopia, Nicholas Roberts, stated that the ICRC has been rendering humanitarian assistance to the state of Tigray since the end of January 2022. The ICRC welcomes the recently declared humanitarian truce. He said, adding, the development has made access to the war-torn Tigray much easier.
This is a very positive development for everybody. Since January, ICRC managed to get a plane with which we deliver, let's say, life-saving medical supplies. with the support of the Ministry of Health that facilitated also the procedure. However, the plane remains limited in terms of what it can carry. And the fact that now with the new truce, there's a clear facilitation of convoy movements. This allows for larger movements of cargo. So yes, very welcome, very happy, let's say, with the truce. Important to make sure that the convoys are maintained at a regular pace. Needs remain extremely high for the affected communities. We really need to maintain this pipeline in order to remain efficient and to remain close to the affected people. So we hope to send on a weekly basis the convoys the same way we do in all the rest of the country.
Roberts said the ICRC complies with its policy of non-interference in internal political situation of a given nation, adding better and more delivery to affected areas as a core issue at the moment.
The ICRC does not, really interfere into any kind of, political decisions, or we do not interfere into any of the internal matters. What matters really to us is to be able to reach the affected communities. This is why we try to always remain as impartial and neutral as possible, supporting communities affected throughout the country.
As TPLF deliberately killed civilians, gang-raped women and girls, and caused mass destruction and looted private and public properties and infrastructures by expanding the war into the two adjacent states of Amhara and Afar, the humanitarian crisis worsened.
How about your humanitarian support to the Afar and Amhara state?
Obviously in Amhara and Afar, a large response. We have a sub-delegation in Gondar. In Afar, we have a team present in Semera, and we have never stopped our activities. I mean, to give you a few examples, in North Wollo, large-scale water rehabilitations in Wuchale, in Haik, in Bati, in Kobo, just at the end of the year in Debre Tabor, in Nafas Mocha. I mean, we're quite active in a lot of these areas. In Afar, Dupti Hospital, I mean, we have been carrying out regular distributions to Dupti Hospital. Just last week, we finished supporting 9,000 people in Harsuma, in Afdera. Yesterday, we did a donation of medical items to Afdera Health Center. So I think that there are needs in Afar that need to be also really covered by the international organizations.
However, the international community is still turning a blind eye to the atrocities perpetrated against civilians by the TPLF. Citing the gravity of the situation, Robert called on the international community to respond to the humanitarian crisis throughout the country before it's too late.
This is our way of working. We really believe in a neutral and impartial response to all the affected communities throughout the country. I do believe that there are needs all around. Tigray has really been affected with a lot of resources not being able to reach into Tigray, as were all the other areas also affected. However, in the other areas we managed to reach quite quickly. But there are a number of areas that we do not see the presence of that many international actors. I was mentioning the Welegas, for instance, East Welega, Kelem Welega, Mfilo, Guji, even in Eichel. There are quite a few areas where we believe there are needs. Metekel, Gilgel Beles, in Benishangul Gumuz. I mean, there are needs, and it's important to make sure that we respond to the needs of all the affected people without distinction. And this is really something that I think would be helpful if other actors also manifest themselves in some of those other affected areas.
Until the arrival of this first convoy on 1st April, the only aid deliveries since mid-December had been by air. This is far most costly and delivers only minimal supplies. The humanitarian truce has helped in this regard, says the ICRC.
Japan is one of the nations which rode the tide of the Second World War, even managing to rebuild its economy into one of the strongest in the globe. The Japanese International Cooperation for Development, JICA, is holding a forum with the Addis Ababa University meant for experience sharing. Alula Takmarem, our staff reporter, is there and is on the line to share some of the things raised. Hello, Alula.
Hello.
Hello, Alula. How are you this morning?
Good, doing good.
Good. Could you please tell us about the Japanese International Cooperation for Development on how it's holding a forum with the Addis Ababa University meant for experience sharing, please?
Great. JICA, the short form from JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, is holding a forum in cooperation with the Addis Ababa University here at the Gannett Alul Palace on voice of sharing experience on how to ensure economic development or fast economic development in the post-war era. Yeah, you know that Japan was one of the most victim nation in the Second World War, and the country has been able to manage and ensure fast economic growth after and manage the trauma of the World War II. As Ethiopia and Japan are renewing their wide range of cooperation in areas of agriculture, science, technology, water, sanitation, health, and education, JICA is also playing its role in ensuring the economic growth of Ethiopia in different sectors. Addis Ababa University lecturers and postgraduate students of the university and representatives of JICA International and JICA Ethiopia office, an ambassador of Japan to Ethiopia, Takako Ito, are in attendance here. And the ambassador shared the experience of Japan, how the country achieved a fast economic growth after World War II. She mentioned the reason why, or the secret for Japan's economic development after the World War II. She said that priorities were given to industrialization, education, public-private sector, and two different philosophies. Kaizen philosophy, which means continuous improvement, and business improvement, or business philosophy that is oriented to be on the profit-oriented ideas. So the reason for Japan to become prosperous after the World War, or defeating the trauma of the World War II, is the priorities given to the industrialization, the education, and public-private sector. And the second underlying thing, which was raised in the event, was the cooperation between the government and people of Japan helped them achieve economic growth after the World War. From the Ethiopian side, representatives of the Addis Ababa University tried to present about the Ethiopia's current situation, and Japan is committed to help Ethiopia's economic progress in different aspects. Students and lecturers were in attendance also discussed on how to achieve or how to ensure economic growth during the post-war era. We will, dear viewers, we will keep you updated in our evening news on ETV language channel.
Thank you, Alula, for the report. That was Alula Takmarem with the report. The Ethiopian High Delegation led by the Finance Minister Ahmed Shide has arrived in Washington, D.C. to attend the meeting of the World Bank Group and International Monetary Fund, IMF. According to Ethiopian Ambassador to the U.S., Fitsum Arega, upon arrival, the delegation undertook the final preparation for the bilateral and multilateral consultations with officials and representatives of the international monetary organizations. The 2022 spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Group, which began the previous day, runs through Sunday. A high-level Ethiopian task force led by Ethiopian Investment Commission and drawn from various government sectors visited Turkey's leading industry zones to learn from the best practices. The visit is part of Ethiopia's drive to accelerate economic growth and create jobs, anchored on the active participation of the private sector. According to the Ethiopian Investment Commission, Ethiopia is working hard to design a new and more comprehensive policy on the operation and regulation of special economic zones. Muslim restaurants in Addis Ababa are supplying various foods and drink services for the followers with affordable price. Customers for the part said the reception in the restaurants is amazing and the cost is fair. Shaggawi Matal has more.
The followers of Muslim religion stayed the iftar ceremony at their homes in the evening during the holy Ramadan fasting season. The followers who are away from home for job or other reasons will visit hotels. Muslim restaurants provide various services for customers during iftar ceremony.
There are different local, European, Arab and international dishes in our restaurant. We are supplying healthy food for the people. Any customer can come and consume here.
Customers holding their iftar ceremony at Nusra restaurant say the cost of the food is fair and the reception is also amazing.
The reception is fine. The cost is also fair. Most of the time, I come with my family to participate in the ceremony. My husband is a foreigner. He needs to dine an international dish.
Manager of the Yemen King restaurant, Naviyu Ballata, for his part expresses different juice and meals are ready for customers for iftar.
We provide different fresh meals of chicken, fish and others. We also present various juice types like normal with milk, mango and papaya and so on. The price is also fair to the level of the customers.
Customers express their happiness about the overall services given in the restaurant.
It was nice. It was very nice. Yeah, real nice. You see how many people are waiting on the list, you know? That's why we like it. It's Ramadan. We make happy. You know, this is the happy time of Muslims. Around the world, I'm satisfied, 100%, really satisfied.
It was also noted that the restaurants are striving to further ensure providing home-to-home delivery being supported by technology services. Besides, the restaurants have created job opportunities for more than 100 citizens.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and let's take a look at the following foreign exchange rate.
Enjoys one of the best climates in the world thanks to its geographical location in southern Africa, but also because of its elevation. And even if it does get somewhat hot, and even though English is also an official language along with Shona. Another popular park in downtown Harare is Africa Unity Square that we're looking at right now, formerly known as Rhodes Square, after Cecil John Rhodes. And it's also a great place to just hang out and enjoy the day. In 1953, Rhodesia became part of the Central African Federation.
Somali's newly elected lawmakers convened for the first time on Saturday. Elections in Somalia follow an indirect model whereby state legislatures and clan delegates pick lawmakers for the national parliament, who in turn chooses the president. The newly elected Somali parliament convened for the first time Saturday with the new legislatures sworn in. The session set the ball rolling for the election of the next president. Johannes van Toon has the details from Africa News. Take a look.
The parliamentary elections should have been completed before incumbent President Mohammed's term expired in February 2021. The process being more than a year behind schedule, the interim speaker called a speedy completion of the work.
One of our first duties that we should perform quickly is to work on electing the new speaker and his two deputies. Today, we chose a 10-member committee.
298 legislators have taken the oath of office from a possible 229 members for both houses. If seats still remain unfilled but sufficient, lawmakers have been sworn in to move the election process forward. A date for choosing the new president has not been set.